But something good happened to me. At the main street, so-called in German Lagerstrasse, I met my cousin. And my cousin was a wife of a physician. He was killed in Radom, and she was sent to Auschwitz. She had 2 children and 1 sister. When she was sent away, the sister took over and took care of the children. And they wandered from one camp to another until one day they came to Auschwitz. And she heard from adult prisoners that children are there, and she asked the Nazi doctors to let the children in, because, as you know, children and old people were the first victims. There were no children in Auschwitz. And they were, the 2 children, a miracle. They were allowed to get in. The name of one was Michael, Michał in Polish, and the girl Marta. The girl was 11, and Michał was 8. So she could play a role of a little lady, the girl. I brought them clothes which they needed. And I was looking for long trousers for Michał, that he looks more adult. And when it was a danger, he hid himself between the barrels which were in the camp, outside the barracks. They were in Auschwitz till the end, till the liberation. But I will first continue about my work. My third work was, since I met my cousin and she said that she is a nurse, although she wasn't a nurse, but she had some idea, being a wife of a physician. And she helped me. She influenced the woman who was responsible for work to take me into the so-called hospital where she was working as a nurse. It's called Revier in German. And what did I do there? I was carrying out excrements to the latrine, and the other work in Revier was to touch bodies. In Revier, we didn't have such big banks, a single bed, 3-story single beds, so I had to climb up and to touch bodies, and if the body was cold or warm, if cold, we had to put the bodies on one on another, because there was not space enough. This was the most difficult work I had to do. At the hospital, I was infected, I had typhus, I was very sick, I had temperature 40 centigrades, and I had a terrible scabies. All my body was burning. And when I itched, I knew I bring the death close to me. Otherwise, and when I, in sleep, I itched myself. and I was the best candidate to the gas chamber. My cousin Alunia, was her name, Alice, she was my saving angel. And she was a very good person. She got from non-Jewish prisoners who got parcels from the Red Cross and from families. She got apples and different food, and she brought me apples in Auschwitz. You know what an apple means in Auschwitz? If you had thousands of euros, wouldn't be equal to that single apple, and she gave me her apple because she wanted me to recover. So to be good or bad, even in hell, you have also a choice. She could eat that apple herself, but she wanted to save me, to help me, and she gave me her apple. This was the third squad. The next was Canada. You will be surprised what name Canada in Auschwitz, because Canada is an affluent country, and what was the work in Canada? We had to sort out all the belongings which were confiscated and the people sent to the gas chambers. So we had to look for gold, silver, diamonds, and they collected it all. We were looking in the posters here where people hid their things which they thought they will save them, but nothing saved them. So I was working in Canada squad, in German we say commando, in Canada commando, 9 months. And I saw the tragedy, how my home city lodge the ghetto was liquidated, and on the heaps of clothes I found pictures of my teachers, which was a very, very painful experience to know if I find their pictures, they don't live anymore. But Alunia, my cousin, wanted me to work in Canada because there was food too, and after the typhus I needed to eat. That's all I needed, to have food. And there, all the packages, we opened them. We also did sabotage. Even if we found beautiful things, we didn't want to hand it out to the Nazis. It was dangerous, but we did it very often. My last work in Canada, those who visited Auschwitz saw suitcases. My last work was to burn the suitcases, because we heard that the Russians are close to Auschwitz, and those which are still there, we didn't have time to burn them. So they stay as witness with names of people. And when I visited Auschwitz, a guy told me that people recognized suitcases of their families who were burned in Auschwitz. How can you live in such a hell? This is the main question. Well, first of all, we were 8 girls. We kept together. We helped each other. We dreamt together about freedom. this year I was invited to the European Parliament, and my first city was Brussels. Why Brussels? Because I told you I wanted to learn, to study. I was stimulated by so many languages, so I said I will choose a language and learn. And I found a woman from Brussels who taught me I had no pencil, no book, no paper, all by heart. And I spoke, after that time, I spoke fluent French when I left Auschwitz. So you see, my motivation to learn helped me, and also friendship. And I think even in hell you have a choice to distinguish between both bad and good. And we also, our 8 girls, we looked for some good things which can keep us alive and suffer less because we helped each other. And now I am going back to the Parliament. Well, it was a very special experience for me because of my French. Brussels was the first city after the liberation where I lived several months. And my French led the girls with me. 5 wanted to go back to Poland because they wanted to look if they will find their families. And 3, and 5 went to the west, to Brussels. So to me, to be in Brussels as a free human being after so many years, and what I said, the world will not believe. This was one of the sentences in my speech. The world, and that this is a lie of the Jewish imagination, that such things can happen. But in Auschwitz were people from all Europe of different creeds, not only Jews. And good Germans were also there. But the German women didn't lose their hair and didn't have a number. This was the difference between Germans and non-Germans. Because they were Superman, Obermensch, Untermensch, and we were under Menschen, under human beings. As I said, I was not freed in Auschwitz because I was working in Canada. They said march out, and we had the so-called death march in deep snow, minus 20 centigrades, and who couldn't walk was shot. So the white snow was covered with red stains. This was the way to the next camp in Germany, Ravensbrück. It was a hunger camp also, and the next it was overpopulated, so we couldn't stay more than a month, and we were till the end of the war in Malchow, also in Mecklenburg. We were there till the end of the war. And the guards who accompanied us in the death march and in the camp in Canada especially, they were with us, and they asked us to take off the military emblems they had on their sleeves. And then they disappeared. I know their names, all of them. Where to? I didn't want to stay in Europe. I said, I want to live in a Jewish country. I don't want to be different from other people in the world. I have my right to live as everybody. And there was no Jewish state then, and I went to Palestine. In Palestine, I met my three brothers, one who was the first there before the war, and two who came back from Russia, but no sister. But I was very happy that I have my brothers, and we met at a camp behind barbed wire, because in the beginning there was a special camp for the immigrants, but not a concentration camp. And they took me out, they freed me, and I was then. And what was the first thing I did? Tell me. After the liberation. Guess. What would you do if you were on my place? Well, I got from one group here an answer. I would eat a lot, but we couldn't eat because the stomachs didn't function. And we were all sick. It took time until we could be as everybody. And then I didn't eat, but what I wanted is to learn to study. So I studied. In half a year I mastered my Hebrew, and I completed the matriculation, and I was in a teacher's training college. And then I was teaching in the same college when I completed my second degree in USA. Professionally, I am a psychologist and a teacher's trainer, and I am an author of books, and I am the initiator of introducing the book, the topic to children, because I think at what age, I want one answer, at what age are you studying the Holocaust at schools? How old are the 13, 12? Tell me. I don't know. How is it in Dublin? When did you hear for the first time from at school? In what class? At what age? 12. Well, I think that 12 is too late because children learn from the media, and they know more than we want them to know, and not the proper things. They only know about murdering people, and not about the Gentiles who helped to save Jews and other people who were in trouble. So I think that in any way in Israel and in Germany there is a must to introduce the topic early, because children live it. On the Remembrance Day we have sirens sounding, and children ask, what is that? Why? And we have to give an answer. So I wrote books which answered children's questions. My first book was What Happened. I want to bring the Hebrew word for Holocaust. Do you know what Holocaust means, the word Holocaust? Holocaust is a Greek word. Yeah. Um, Holos means whole, and kauston means to burn. So Holocaust speaks about the victims which are wholly burned. And we have since many years, at least since 1988, the word Shoah is introduced also in European and American literature. Shoah means a great disaster, a genocide. And we use the word Shoah. So my first book was because of my number. Children asked me, what does it mean that I have a number? Do I forget my phone number? No. And I had to answer. So I looked many years for an answer, and I must say, my first book I wrote, it took 40 years until I found the answer and I was very critical about myself. This is not right, I don't have to say it. And finally I said, whatever I write, it will be criticized, and it should be criticized. When you open a book, learn to criticize, to analyze and to criticize, and not to accept everything, so is it. My second book is Chica, the Dog in the Ghetto. I don't know if you know it, but under Nuremberg laws, Jews were not allowed to have pets. So one day they had to bring all the dogs to a place and the dogs were sent to Germany. I describe a family with a 5-year-old boy who has a dog, Chica. Chica in Spanish is small, and he loves Chica, and he doesn't want to give away his dog. And I develop a plot with obstacles, how they finally find a solution. And I introduce a non-Jewish, a Polish lady, who is a good person, and father goes when only stars, and Mons sees them, him and the dog to Mrs. Hanusha, who takes the dog to her in spite of not having food enough. Mrs. Hanusha, the Polish lady, is a symbol of righteous Gentiles. She was the one, and when I worked in London, one teacher came to me and said, I am Chica. I was hidden in a Polish family home, and my mother took me back when I imagine what a tragedy for a child. She got used to the other mother, and then she had to go back to the real mother. So many tragedies occurred during that time. This is my second book. My third book is If Stars Could Only Speak, and this book I dedicated to my cousin Alunia, who was my saving angel in Auschwitz. She chose to be good. Then I have another book for children which is called Today the Siren Cried for Me. Before, I mentioned beforehand that in Israel sirens sound around the country, and this is the beginning of the Remembrance Day in Israel. And I have one book for you and for adults, which is called Imagination, Blessed Be, Cursed Be. It was published in Newark, in England, and I describe many, many episodes of my life. The book has several parts. One part is from every nation and every language, because it was a mix-up of so many people from so many countries. The second was everyday life in hell. The third was Imagination, Blessed Be, Cursed Be, as the title of the book. And then I have Existential, but not spoken about. And I am speaking about the physiological needs, which were very problematic there. Children somehow asked me if I had toilet paper. No, I didn't have any. Neither a newspaper. So imagine, and the last chapter is So It Was Written There. And I learned not only French, but I learned in Auschwitz poems and songs which were written by prisoners, and they wandered from one place to another. And I said, I should not die with those poems and songs, and that's why chapter 5 includes this content. Well, my books are translated in several languages: Hebrew, Polish, German, English, French, and Russian. For children, because in Russia they didn't know anything how to treat the topic, so they decided they want my books, and they are published.